Hi, and welcome everyone. I am your host, Cuddles Me, my real name being Cassandra. This is the second episode of my AP Literature podcast. I had no idea what to draw or what poem to choose. There were just so many options, and yet I fell in love with this one. It's quite simple and very heartwarming. I hope you are able to enjoy this one, because I did. Also, I apologize if you hear anyone in the background or some cars zooming by. Anyways, I introduce to you Oranges by Gary Soto. The first time I walked with a girl I was 12, cold and weighted down, with 2 oranges in my jacket. December, frost cracking beneath my steps, my breath before me, then gone. As I walked toward her house, the one whose porch light burned yellow, night and day, in any weather. My dog barked at me until she came out, pulling at her gloves, face bright with rouge. I smiled, touched her shoulder, and led her down the street across a used car lot with a line of newly planted trees, until we were breathing. Before a drugstore we entered, the tiny bell bringing a saleslady down a narrow aisle of goods. I turned to the candies tethered with bleachers and asked what she wanted. Light in her eyes, a smile starting at the corners of her mouth. I fingered a nickel in my pocket, and when she lifted a chocolate that cost a dime, I didn't say anything. I took the nickel from my pocket, then an orange, and set them quietly on the counter. When I looked up, the lady's eyes met mine, and held them, knowing very well what it was all about. Outside, a few cars hissing past, fog hanging like old coats between the trees. I took my girl's hand in mine for 2 blocks, then released it to let her unwrap the chocolate. I peeled my orange that was so bright against the gray of December that from some distance someone might have thought I was making a fire in my hands. Gary Soto's poem Oranges starts off with the speaker giving descriptions of his first date when he was 12. He looks back on his memories from an older perspective. After all the years, the speaker can still accurately depict them. From the lines 1 through 15, the boy's excited and nervous for his first day. In December, where the breeze is cold and you can't help but shiver. He's carrying 2 oranges in his pocket, this being a symbol for warmth and hope. The date is fairly simple. He's going on a walk with the unnamed girl. In this stanza, something that struck my interest was the phrase, "then gone." It was as if the speaker was attempting to draw attention to the fleeting nature of these moments, and perhaps even of love and relationships themselves. The speaker remembers how he walked towards her house, and I quote, "Her house, the one whose porch light burned yellow." The yellow in this quote means the light works in a similar way to the oranges in his pocket. It's bright in the darkness of the winter. The same can be said about her face, bright with rouge. They walk and soon make it to a drugstore. Outside of it, they were breathing. By doing this, the speaker wants the viewer to relate back to his single breath before meeting up with his date. Now they are breathing the cold air. They are breathing together. The girl ends up picking chocolate. When the 2 go up to the checkout, he knows that he doesn't have enough money, so he decides to give the checkout lady one of his 2 oranges, quietly on the counter, as if he were worried that these 2 things might not be accepted. Meeting eyes with the woman, it's clear that she's very aware of his situation and is willing to accept this form of payment. The first stanza ends and the second begins with the 2 leaving the store. The speaker begins to describe the outdoors. There are only a few cars hissing through the street. The speaker focuses more on the fog hanging like old coats between the trees than it being cold. Now he takes her hand for 2 blocks until she unwraps her chocolate and he peels his orange. It, like this moment, was bright against the gray of December. This brightness to him felt that from a distance it looks like he was making a fire in his hands. This draws attention back to his overall warmth despite the cold weather. This very moment, an uplifting and heartwarming date, was something that he still remembers even after all those years. In Oranges, the speaker Gary Soto engages with the messages of brightness and dullness, warmth and cold, young and old, happiness and memories, to express a romantic experience in his past. He looks back on this time in his life, able to recall all the little details of his first date. Even in the coldness of weather, his warmth and happiness of that single moment was enough to help him convey symbols of desire, hope, and life. The little details of the date was what mattered. The girl's smile, the rouge on her cheeks, the light that bloomed at her home, the oranges in his pocket. This is Oranges by Gary Soto. Thank you.